How do you burn stored body fat to achieve a lean, energized, and strong body? And are some people weight loss resistant? Do they have a metabolic defect? Well, that's what I want to explain today. So after 30 years of actually doing this stuff and reading research every day of my life and working with thousands of people, you find that there are common mistakes and they're not intentional. People really believe they're following the plan, but when you start to ask them more questions and dig deeper, you find that they were making some mistakes that were huge in terms of physiology. So there are, theories, which most things that are taught in fitness nutrition are theories, but there are a handful of laws. These are overarching principles that apply to all humans as a species. So it's not like one person's genetics different than another in this case, and that affects it. It is that if you are a Homo sapien, this applies to you. And what we want to talk about today is what's called the first law of thermodynamics. Now that's a fancy way of saying something that's probably not that complicated, but it's often overlooked. People are obsessed with what's bad, what's the enemy, what's evil, and what's the hero, the solution. And it could, back 30 years ago, fat was the thing. Stay away from fat. Fat makes you fat. That was touted everywhere. And now it's carbohydrates, or now it's don't eat at all, fast. And those things aren't evil, but they're not also accurate. No matter what program causes you to burn fat, it's because they applied this law, the first law of thermodynamics. And what that is we first need to know what a calorie is. We all heard the word calorie. It's actually a kilocalorie, but it's shortened. And a kilocalorie is the amount of heat required to raise 1 kilogram of water 1 degree Celsius. And remember that it says amount of heat. That's what's important. And so calories are the fuel of the body. So that's why we look at food and say okay, what does this contain? And if it has calories, that's like liters or gallons of gasoline, depending on where you're from in the world. We have fuel that the body needs. And if we don't get enough fuel, the different things happen. If you get too much fuel, you'll store fuel. If you don't get enough fuel, you'll run out of it, and you'll start to burn stored fuel. Whether it's fat or muscle is really what we want to make sure. So our goal, everyone's goal in the world, if you want to have optimal health, extraordinary health, a body that looks good and you're proud of and feels good and performs well and doesn't let you down, doesn't break down on you, is we should all want to maintain or add lean body mass and get our fat down to a healthy weight so that we have energy, but that we're healthy. And you don't have to get ripped, but to be at a healthy weight. Because if someone wants to have more energy, carrying around 10 extra pounds is exhausting. Just wear a weighted vest of 10 pounds all day long, and about an hour in, your muscles will start hurting, they'll start burning, and you'll be exhausted. You'll need to sit down. So our goal, everyone's goal, is to optimize this gift we have, this vehicle we have as a body. And the law, if you break the law of thermodynamics, there's a price to pay. So let me explain this as simple as I possibly can. And I'm sure you've heard this, but it's also called energy balance. So if, let's say, we estimate that your metabolism, it's called your basal metabolic rate, how many calories you burn a day if you just lay in bed all day. And that's just to stay alive. That doesn't include exercise and moving around throughout the day. And so what we want to do is look at what happens. So most people do a diet and they will eat less food, which is, good. And then they will exercise a lot, usually cardio. And that combination has been shown in research to cause people to lose weight. But for every 10 pounds you lose like that by doing cardio and restricting your calories, it causes you to lose about 6 pounds of the 10 pounds of lean body mass, which muscle is critical. It's important. Muscle is the physical location of the body where fat is burned. Muscle is your metabolism. So the more muscle you have, the more energy you have for one, but also the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn just hanging out. So your basal metabolic rate will be higher. So if you lose muscle, your basal metabolic rate, the amount of calories you burn a day, the amount of fuel you burn a day, decreases. So we want to maintain muscle. That's one of the most important because it's easy to maintain a healthy weight when we have muscle and we don't lose it. So that's what's important. So what happens though, and everybody knows this, if say you need 2,000 calories a day just to maintain and you burn off 2,000 calories a day through activity and just living life, you'll stay the same. There won't be a change. Now, that doesn't really happen hardly ever. You're usually either adding fat or burning fat off. It's very rarely that we're staying the same. It may be very incremental, but that's the case. Now, let's say you're at this 2,000 calorie day and you take in 2,500 calories. So now you have 500 surplus calories. And let's say you were not exercising, so there was no stimulus to your muscles. Those extra 500 calories will be stored as fat. Make sense? So extra calories get stored. Now, if you lifted weights and challenge your body with resistance, and you have a calorie surplus, those extra calories, some of them will go towards adding lean muscle mass. It's called protein synthesis. So that's one of the reasons why lifting weights is so important. So when you do get off track, you actually won't store fat. You'll actually add some muscle and speed your metabolism. And so that's one of the most important things to take in. But if you eat more, it's going to be stored. Either if you lift weights, some of it will be muscle, most of it will be muscle. And if you don't, it's all going to be fat. That's pretty simple. Now, when people hear this, they're like, well, how do I lose weight? They're like, okay, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to eat less. I'm going to go on this diet or I'm going to fast and I need 2,000 calories. I'm going to eat 1,000 calories and then I'm going to exercise and burn off another 500 calories and I'm going to run. And what happens is now they have a 1,500 calorie deficit. They only have 500 calories to do all these things that the body needs, like a lot more just to recover, to rebuild, because cells break down and cells have to be rebuilt. So what does that mean? Well, if you go too extreme on the deficit for too long, your body will start to break down muscle, like I mentioned before. And so what we need is to find the place where you're burning fat, but you're maintaining muscle. And this is why most people don't achieve their goals, because they don't have patience. This is not a quick process. And people want results now, and they're doing it for the wrong reason. They're doing it because they're like, I got to get this weight off. I hate myself. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. I got to get it off. And that is the mindset, and that is the pattern of failure. And it's not just failure, it creates a belief system that you're not enough. It creates a belief system that, it doesn't work for me. There's something wrong with me. And I have yet to find someone that this hasn't worked for. But it's not fast. And you got to be persistent. You got to keep going. It takes months, like 6 months of consistently doing this to get significant results. That's why you got to master the mindset. And that's why you got to train for a different reason. You got to train to connect to your best self so that you feel good each day and that you can go out and serve at the highest level, create life on your terms. That's the purpose of training. So you have to have a plan that's effective and then the mindset to carry through. And if you eat according to what I'm teaching you here, and this isn't my program, by the way, this is just science. This is looking at research and training thousands of people and knowing people that do this. And this just is how the body works. It's a law. And so I guarantee that if you keep track of this and you say, I'm going to use a scientific method. I'm going to track my food intake. I'm going to track my calories and my protein, my carbs and fats. And if you do that, you're going to be good to go. But today I'm not going to go into the details. I made that video for that specifically so that you can calculate all these things. But what I want, if you're hearing this and you're like, I did that before, it didn't work. I promise you, if you did not lose weight, you are not in a calorie deficit, because those calculations we use, there's tons of calculations for these things. They're all approximations. They are not exact. We don't know what is. I'm using a more aggressive one so that we're closer to it, and it's based off a certain population, so it's going to be more accurate. But if I was working with professional athletes, I use a whole other calculation. But say you do the calculations and you're at 2,000 calories, I'm just making up a number, and you gain a pound. You're like, well, the first week that can't happen. So the first week's a wash because you're going to store nutrients, especially if you haven't been eating well. The second week, say you lost a pound though, and you're eating the same amount of food. That's a true measurement. So we're like, okay. And then say the third week, you stayed the same. Like, okay, we need to decrease the amount of calories. And based off your DNA, I would look at that and say calories from carbs or fats. And then you would lose weight again, or you would get stuck. And then there's some weeks where you make progress, some weeks you don't. But it's all about finding this balance, not restricting too much, not overeating, and doing resistance training so you maintain muscle. But if you go too extreme and you don't do resistance training, you will lose muscle mass primarily and slow your metabolism. You'll gain all this weight back. And so there was a study at the New England Journal of Medicine, which is a prestigious journal. And they had people, and the name of the study was called Discrepancy Between Self-Reported and Actual Caloric Intake and Exercise in Obese Subjects. These were people that were almost 50% body fat, which is obese, and they reported an inability to lose weight despite an intake of less than 1,200 calories a day. That's super rare, just so you know. So they were saying that they had a metabolic defect. And so the measurements were taken. They took measurements to see how many calories they were burning and their body fat. And what they did was they put them in a metabolic ward. A metabolic ward is a place you live, basically, and they pay you to be there. And they say, okay, here's the food. Go pick out your food, and this is your plan. So eat 1,200 calories a day, but do not eat more than 1,200 calories a day. You can pick what you want. And at the end of it, none of them lost weight, okay? And so, but what they did not know was every time they chose the food, it was being weighed. So they knew how much they actually took and how much they ate. So they reported that their average intake was 1,200 calories. They were taking in almost 2,500 calories, so more than twice the amount. Now, were they doing it on purpose? No, I don't think so. I don't think they're intentionally doing it. I don't think they were lying. Maybe some of them were. I can't vouch for their character. I didn't know these people. But they were completely unaware. And they were probably guesstimating it. And even food labels are off by 10 to 20%. There's some weird labeling laws a lot of times. So the key is to be consistent. Eat about the same foods for a period of time. Measure before and measure after. See what actually happens. And don't beat yourself up about it. But this is just one study of many studies to show that humans suck at keeping track of the amount of food they eat. And they suck at keeping track of the amount of exercise. They get caught up in burning calories. The formulas that say you burn calories they're completely inaccurate. So if someone gets on an elliptical trainer, it'll say you burnt 500 calories in 30 minutes. Then you go for a run and it says, okay, you have to run 50 minutes to burn 500 calories. Running, you have a much higher heart rate. Depends on how high your heart rate is. It depends on how much muscle you have. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn when you exercise. So what I'm saying is if you really want to get lean or you really want to add muscle, you have to know the amount of food you're ingesting. Now, where do calories come from? They come from four things. They come from carbohydrates. For every gram of carbohydrates, there's 4 calories. And I'm sure you guys know this. But what are carbohydrates? Those are sugars. Those are starches. Those could be complex carbohydrates. And so that's 4 calories per gram. Now, protein is also 4 calories per gram. Later on, I'll teach you just about each of these so that you understand this, so you know like what a nutritionist will know. And so 4 calories a gram for every gram of protein or carbs, there's 4 calories per gram. Now, for fat, there's 9 calories per gram. And does that mean fat's bad because there's more calories? No, it just means that it's more calories. That's what it is. And then the last thing is alcohol. Alcohol, for every gram of alcohol, you have 7 calories per gram. And it's a non-nutrient, so there's no nutritional value to alcohol. So and if you're trying to lose fat and you're drinking alcohol, you're going to want to cut that out at some point. I've yet to meet the person that can drink consistently and lose body fat. And I've never seen anyone get super ripped unless they were already ripped. So just something to consider if you really want this. But it doesn't mean you have to do this. You don't have to lose body fat. But if you have a goal and you make a promise to yourself, you're going to do it, and then you don't achieve it, and it's because the nutrition thing. But say you're like, that's not my goal. I just want to exercise, and I want to eat what I want to eat. So I want to exercise just to minimize damage. That's fine. But what is your level of commitment? I want you to have the tools necessary. So hey, I really want to achieve this. I want to master my body. I want to master my mind. I want to master myself so that I can create life on my terms. And if that's the case, I want you to have an effective plan. But this is where people fail. This is where they fall apart. This is where they're like, I've been doing it, but it's not working. I promise you, you were not doing this. Now, is there something that could be causing it? It's highly unlikely. You would have some sort of disease, like a disease that you would go to a doctor, they look at your blood work like, hey, I got to talk to you. And you got kidney disease. You got type 2 diabetes. Even type 2 diabetics lose weight whenever they do this. So I can't even say that for that. So we got to get healthy. And when we're in a slight calorie deficit, the body's getting healthier. So, but the only way to know if it doesn't work for you is to actually go all in and give it at least 3 months and say, I'm going to measure my food. I'm going to weigh it. Or it's or you say, nope, that's not, I don't care. But that way you're in line with what you expect is in line with your goals. And so this is super important. And so the studies on people self-reporting how much they eat and how much they actually eat, they're off by a large margin a lot of the time. And I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying it's a little tricky, especially if you're changing the food you eat each day. We're going to go in. I'm going to have something for you over the next couple of weeks of a system of just doing this so it's easier than just doing it all from scratch. But for now, you got to know this principle. First law of thermodynamics, you want to figure out what amount of food you maintain at, what amount of food you lose a pound or two or a kilo per week or so. And then what is the point where you start losing muscle? When you know that, you can figure this stuff out. There's going to be a point in your life where you got to do this. You got to take 6 months and just go all in on nutrition and treat it like going to school, like it's university. This is where I'm going to master nutrition in my life and make it a game, but it's the only way to do it. And once you do it, it's hard the first time. After that, you understand it on a whole other level, and it's not something you can read. It's not someone can teach you. It's a process of you getting your hands dirty and doing it, taking the time, and it's effort. It's new. You're going to suck at it first. Anytime we do something new, we're not very good at it, and that doesn't always feel good. But if you come at it with curiosity as a student, and it will make a huge impact, not just on your health, but on the way you view yourself. Because when you make a promise, you set a goal, that's a promise, and you stick to it, something changes. You see yourself through the eyes of God. And that may sound exaggerations. No, it's like, hey, when I say something, my words matter. I'm not just a person that talks. I'm a person that chooses my words. I choose my promises. And when I set a goal, it is done. It's just a matter of time after that. It's a matter of repetition because I do not waver. I'm a master of my thought. I'm a master of my mind. And that may sound extreme. If it sounds stupid to you, then just don't do it. Just quit the program and just go drink beer and do whatever the hell you want. But, don't lie to yourself. Don't keep making up stories of why you can't do something or why you're different and why it works for everyone else but not you. That's all bullshit. I'm telling you right now. And if you do have something like that, you probably have a serious health problem. And it's unlikely you do. You would know. So I'm saying you can absolutely do this. I have not met the person. I've been doing this for 3 decades. And I'm not special. This is just what I focus on. And I promise you, if you take the time to master this, if you just say, hey, I'm gonna weigh my food. I'm gonna measure. I'm gonna figure out my calculations. I'm gonna take my weight Monday, Wednesday, Friday and see what the average is and see if I lost body fat. I'm gonna take my waist measurement. I'll teach you all the tracking system too. I'll teach you the whole system. I'm gonna teach you the system as if you were preparing for a fitness competition. And that's like, maybe that's not your thing. Maybe your life's too busy. That's fine. But I want you to have the tools. I want you to have the ability, the roadmap to do it. And if you go for it, I'm here to help you. If you have a different goal and you're just trying to maintain, you just want to feel good and use exercise to get into a peak state every day, that's awesome too. I love that too. And eventually that's what you'll do because your body will be where it's at. You'll get your body where, and then the maintenance is a lot easier because like you've gone through, you forged yourself in the fire of taking consistent action. You forged yourself in the fire of actually living it. Now, I could go on and on. I'm going to cut it off there. But the first law of thermodynamics, you got to figure out the proper quantity of food. I'll be teaching you. You already know what foods are good for you. I sent you the ultimate food list, all things, foods that are close to their natural source. You want to eat mostly those things. But I'm going to teach you some stuff in research that came out that shows that those choices aren't as important as the actual quantity of food. And then I'm going to teach you about protein specifically. I'm going to teach you about the amounts, the types. I'm going to teach you how to break them. Is it better to do a whole bunch of protein at once or to split it up throughout the day? And carbohydrates. When is the best time to eat carbohydrates and different types of carbohydrates? And we look at your DNA, that's going to vary for each person. I'll teach you all about that. And then fats. There's different types of fats. Some people genetically do great on all types of fats, even ones that are considered bad for a lot of people, but that's not true for everyone. So there's certain principles that apply to every human. That's what I told you, the first law of thermodynamics and the protein principle. Carbs and fats vary a little bit, but they have calories in them, so they're affected. So that's it for today. Just say like, hey, make the decision and I am going to track this. I'm going to do this. I'm going all in. Or like, hey, that's interesting. I'll listen now. And maybe at some point I'll apply it. Probably not, but that's okay. At least you heard it and you won't get bamboozled by all this bullshit on podcasts and diet books and on television and the headlines because that's all marketing. They're just trying to sell you stuff or just trying to get attention, get more clicks. But I'm going to teach you the science of what is actually true, the fitness truth. Got it? All right, let's do this. tap into the real you. But you have to retrain yourself. The way you retrain yourself is you wake your ass up in the morning and you say, I am here for a reason and a purpose. And it's bigger than my moods. It's bigger than the difficulties of the day. I am here to live like a lion, not the fear of a lamb.